The Crystal Palace shook as more alarms joined the chaos. Chancellor Thyros gripped his throne while communication officers rushed around the chamber with expressions of disbelief and terror. Reports were flooding in from across the galaxy and none of them made sense. Task Force Domination is not responding, announced a trembling aide. All 800 ships have gone silent. Long-range sensors detect massive energy signatures and debris fields throughout the Sol. System. The aide's voice cracked as he delivered news that should have been impossible. Kate smiled for the first time since arriving at Thexus. Prime, let me guess. Your mighty fleet encountered something they weren't expecting. Human innovation tends to surprise people who think they know everything about warfare. General Corlane snarled in rage and confusion. Impossible. Task Force Domination had enough firepower to destroy 100 worlds. No primitive species could stand against the Empire's finest battle fleet. His forearms gestured wildly as he tried to understand what had happened. You made a fundamental mistake, Kate said as she walked closer to the throne. You assumed humans would react like all the other species you have destroyed. Run and hide or surrender and beg for mercy. But you forgot something important about my people. Another aide burst into the chamber with a data pad clutched in his shaking hands. Chancellor, we have preliminary reports from the Sol system. The human fleet appears to have used weapons and tactics we have never encountered. Our ships were ambushed and destroyed before they could respond effectively. The UNS Defender wasn't just a diplomatic vessel, Kate revealed with growing satisfaction. It was also a Trojan horse. For 6 months while you entertained us with trade discussions, human engineers studied every aspect of your technology. Every scan, every tour, every social interaction was gathering intelligence. Thyros finally found his voice, though it no longer carried the confidence of absolute power. You could not have learned enough in 6 months to threaten the Empire. Our technology is the result of thousands of years of development. Your technology hasn't changed in 200 years, Kate replied. Dr. Vashon was right. You became comfortable with easy victories over primitive species, but humans don't stay primitive for long. We adapt, we innovate, and we learn from our enemies faster than anyone thought possible. More reports kept coming in, each one worse than the last for the Empire. Fleet Admiral Corvin reports complete destruction of the advanced squadrons. Human vessels appear to be using some kind of phase shift technology that makes them nearly impossible to target. Our weapons are having minimal effect. Kate thought about the brilliant scientists and engineers back on Earth who had received Dr. Vashon's data and worked day and night to turn Imperial weaknesses into human advantages. Your shield technology relies on predictable frequency patterns. Your weapons are designed for fighting opponents who use similar tactics. Your fleet formations assume your enemies will engage you directly. Humans don't fight fair, she continued. We fight to win. When someone threatens our families, our children, our home, we don't line up for honorable combat. We use every dirty trick, every innovation, every advantage we can find to destroy anyone who tries to hurt the people we love. General Corlane was no longer laughing. His reptilian face showed fear for the first time as reports continued pouring in about the complete destruction of the greatest fleet in Imperial history. This is impossible. The Empire has ruled for 1,000 years. No young species has ever resisted us successfully. That's because you never faced humans before, Kate said coldly. Every other species you destroyed probably tried to negotiate or surrender when they realized they were outgunned. But you made the mistake of attacking our home first. You murdered our colonists. You declared war on our families. A new aide rushed in with even worse news. Chancellor, human fleets are moving toward Imperial space. Long-range sensors detect at least 300 vessels using unknown propulsion systems. They appear to be targeting our major military installations. Kate felt a surge of pride for her species. Earth had not just survived the Imperial attack, but had turned it into a declaration of war against genocide itself. Your empire has stood for 1,000 years by crushing young civilizations before they could become threats. But you made one fatal mistake. What mistake? Thyros whispered, his voice no longer holding any trace of imperial arrogance. You didn't just attack random humans in space, Kate said with quiet fury. You attacked our families, our children, our future. And now you face a species that has survived ice ages, world wars, plagues, and extinction events by refusing to surrender no matter what the odds. The chamber fell silent except for the continuing alarms and the sound of an empire beginning to crumble. Kate looked around at the alien faces that no longer showed contempt but growing terror as they realized what humanity was capable of when fighting for survival. Earth's fleet is already moving toward your core worlds, Kate announced. This isn't a war for territory or resources. This is a war for the right to exist, and we will not stop. We will not compromise, and we will not forgive until every last threat to human civilization is eliminated. But we have hundreds of worlds, General Corlane protested desperately. Billions of citizens. You cannot destroy an entire empire. He was beginning to understand that humans might actually be capable of exactly that. Watch us, Kate replied simply. Your empire spent 1,000 years teaching the galaxy that might makes right. That superior firepower justifies genocide. That young species deserve to die for the crime of growing too quickly. Today you learn what happens when someone applies those lessons to you. Jake stepped forward beside her, his young face hard with determination. My cousin was on the New Horizon with his wife and 2 children. They were looking for a new home and you murdered them. Every human in space knows someone who died on those colony ships. This isn't just about survival anymore. This is about justice. Kate began walking toward the chamber exit as chaos erupted around them. Imperial officers ran in panic while alien representatives sat in stunned silence as they realized their comfortable world of Imperial dominance was ending forever. Where are you going? Thyros called out desperately. We can negotiate. Find some peaceful solution. The Empire is willing to discuss terms. Kate paused at the doorway and looked back at the alien leader who had ordered the deaths of 17 civilizations. You had your chance for peace when our diplomats first arrived. You chose genocide instead. Now you get to live with the consequences of that choice. As she walked calmly toward the UNS Defender with Jake beside her, Kate thought about Dr. Vashin and all the species that had died alone and forgotten. Today their sacrifice was finally being avenged by a young civilization that refused to go gentle into that good night. The galaxy's age of Imperial dominance was over, and humanity had just announced that Earth's children would inherit the stars. Kate stood outside the Crystal Palace as the twin suns of Thexus Prime reached their highest point in the purple sky. She had requested an emergency session with the Imperial Council, claiming she had discovered a serious threat to galactic stability. Chancellor Thyros had agreed to see her, probably thinking he could extract information about Earth's defenses. Jake walked beside her, his face calm despite everything they had been through in the past 12 hours. Imperial security had almost caught them during the data transmission, but Captain Walsh had created enough of a diversion to let them escape. Now they were walking back into the heart of enemy territory for one final confrontation. Are you sure about this plan? Jake asked quietly as they passed through the palace corridors lined with alien guards. We could still try to reach our ship and make a run for Earth. He was young, but he had proven himself brave when it mattered most. Earth already has the intelligence data, Kate replied. Now they need time to prepare. If I can keep the council focused on me for a few more hours, it might make the difference between survival and extinction for our species. She had no illusions about what would happen to her after this meeting. The council chamber was filled with representatives from across the empire. Chancellor Thyros sat on his crystal throne looking down at her with eyes that held 1,000 years of accumulated power. General Corlane stood nearby with his forearms crossed and his scaled face showing barely controlled hatred. Ambassador Morrison, Thyros said in his voice like distant thunder, you requested this emergency session claiming to have vital intelligence about threats to galactic order. We are curious to hear what a representative of such a young species might have discovered. Kate walked to the center of the chamber where every eye could see her. She pulled out a data pad and activated a holographic display showing the files Dr. Vashin had died to give her. I have discovered evidence of systematic genocide carried out by Imperial forces against peaceful civilizations. A murmur ran through the assembled aliens. Some looked genuinely shocked while others just seemed annoyed that someone would bring up such an uncomfortable topic. Thyros leaned forward on his throne with an expression of mild interest. These records show the destruction of 17 civilizations under something called the Galactic Stability Protocol, Kate continued, including the recent murder of 45,000 human colonists whose only crime was seeking new homes among the stars. General Corlane stepped forward with a sneer on his reptilian face. Those colonists were warned to stay away from Imperial space. They chose to ignore diplomatic protocols and paid the price for their arrogance. The Empire maintains order through strength, not weakness. So you admit to murdering families and children? Kate said coldly. You destroyed colony ships full of people who just wanted to build new lives. And now you have sent 800 warships to finish the job by exterminating every human in the galaxy. Thyros waved a hand dismissively. The Galactic Stability Protocol exists to prevent chaos. Young species often develop dangerous technologies without the wisdom to use them responsibly. The Empire has maintained peace for 1,000 years by eliminating such threats before they can destabilize galactic civilization. Peace through genocide, Kate replied. How noble. Tell me, Chancellor, how many children have you murdered in the name of stability? How many families have you torn apart to maintain your precious order? She could see anger building in the alien leader's eyes. You speak of things you do not understand, Thyros said with growing irritation. Humanity achieved interstellar travel in less than 200 years. Such rapid advancement is unprecedented and dangerous. Left unchecked, humans could threaten the stability that has protected billions of lives across the galaxy. General Corlane laughed, a sound like grinding metal. The human speaks as if her pathetic species poses some kind of threat to the Empire. We have eliminated civilizations far more advanced than yours. Your primitive technology and small numbers make you nothing more than an irritating insect to be crushed. You believe you can eliminate us like all the others, Kate said, her voice becoming deadly quiet. You see humans as just another primitive species to be exterminated before we become inconvenient. But you have made a critical error in judgment, Chancellor. You attacked our home. The council chamber fell silent. Every alien representative leaned forward to hear what this small human female thought she could do against the mightiest empire in galactic history. Thyros smiled with the confidence of someone who had never faced a real challenge to his power. Your fleet is already in human space, Thyros said smugly. Task Force domination will reduce Earth to molten rock within hours. Your colonies on Mars and the outer planets will be sterilized completely. By tomorrow, your entire species will exist only as a cautionary tale for other upstarts who think they can challenge imperial authority. Kate's expression remained eerily calm despite the death sentence that had just been pronounced on everyone she had ever loved. You should have studied human history more carefully, Chancellor. We have survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and extinction events that would have destroyed most species. We don't surrender and we don't give up. We have a saying on Earth, she continued. Do not go gentle into that good night. We rage against the dying of the light. And when someone threatens our home, our families, our children, we don't just fight back. We fight to win no matter what the cost. General Corlane snarled with amusement. Your species will be extinct in a matter of hours. What exactly do you think you can do from here? Send angry messages? Issue meaningless threats? The Empire has crushed 1,000 civilizations more advanced than yours. Kate looked around the chamber at all the alien faces staring at her with contempt and pity. Representatives of species that had surrendered their independence to serve an empire built on fear and murder. None of them understood what they were about to witness. The difference between humans and every other species you have destroyed, Kate said quietly, is that we learn from our enemies, we adapt, we innovate, and we never ever forgive anyone who tries to hurt our families. As if summoned by her words, alarms began blaring throughout the Crystal Palace. Emergency lights flashed and communication officers rushed toward the Chancellor with expressions of growing panic. Something had gone very wrong with Task Force domination, and the Empire was about to learn what happened when you attacked humanity's home. Kate ran through the dark streets of Thexus Prime with her heart pounding like a war drum. Behind her, she could hear security vehicles racing toward the archive. She had to reach Jake and Captain Walsh before Imperial forces locked down the entire diplomatic quarter. The data chips felt like burning coals in her pocket. 45,000 dead humans on Earth had no idea that 800 Imperial warships were already moving through space toward the solar system. She thought about her sister Carol and her 2 young children living peacefully in Denver, completely unaware that alien executioners were coming to murder them all. Jake was waiting for her at the entrance to their quarters, his face tight with worry. Ma'am, we have a problem. I intercepted Imperial military communications 30 minutes ago. There's a massive fleet movement heading toward human space. Task Force domination left Imperial territory this morning. I know, Kate said as she pulled out the data chips. Dr. Vashan gave me everything. Fleet positions, tactical plans, weapon specifications. Jake, they murdered our colonists. All 45,000 people on those 3 ships. And now they're coming for Earth. Jake's face went white. Jesus, my cousin was on the New Horizon with his family. They told us pirates got them. His hands shook as he took the data chips. How long do we have? 60 hours, maybe less. The Empire has been planning this for months. They see humanity as a threat that needs to be eliminated before we get too strong. Kate looked around the elegant alien quarters that suddenly felt like a tomb. We need to get this information to Earth immediately. Ma'am, there's something else, Jake said quietly. I've been monitoring Imperial communications since we arrived. They're not just planning to destroy Earth. They want to eliminate every human settlement in space. The colonies on Mars, the mining stations around Jupiter, the research outposts near Saturn. They plan to wipe out our entire species. Kate felt sick. This was not just an attack on Earth, but complete genocide. Have you been able to contact Captain Walsh? She needed to know if their ship was still operational or if Imperial forces had already moved to prevent their escape. He's standing by in the ship with engines ready. But ma'am, there are 6 Imperial cruisers surrounding the landing platform. If we try to leave, they'll blast us to pieces before we clear the atmosphere. Jake pulled up a tactical display showing their ship surrounded by alien warships. Kate studied the information Dr. Vashan had given her. According to this, the Empire relies on predictable tactics. They always use overwhelming force and expect their enemies to surrender or run. But what if we don't do either? What if we give them something they don't expect? What do you mean? Jake asked as he copied the data chips to their secure transmitter. Even if they died here, Earth would at least get some warning about what was coming. The Empire has been fighting primitive species for centuries. They've never faced humans who know they're coming and have time to prepare. Dr. Vashan said their technology hasn't changed much in 200 years. They've gotten comfortable with easy victories. Kate activated her communication device and contacted Captain Walsh. Ben, we need to transmit everything to Earth immediately. Full burst transmission with maximum encryption. Include all the data Jake intercepted plus Dr. Vashan's intelligence files. Kate, if we start transmitting, the Imperials will know exactly what we're doing, Captain Walsh replied. They'll stop us before we can get half the data through. His voice was calm, but she could hear the tension underneath. Then we make sure they're too busy to stop us, Kate said. Jake, can you create a feedback loop in their sensor network? Something to blind them for maybe 10 minutes? She was gambling everything on the hope that Imperial technology was as predictable as Dr. Vashan had suggested. Jake's fingers flew over his equipment. Maybe. Their scanning frequencies follow standard Imperial patterns. If I can overload their primary sensors with false signals, they might not detect our transmission until it's too late. He paused. But they'll know it was us. We'll be dead 30 seconds after I activate this. Earth is worth dying for, Kate said simply. Our families are worth dying for. 45,000 colonists died because we didn't know what the Empire really was. We can't let that happen to 8 billion more people. Jake nodded and began working. I'll need 5 minutes to set up the sensor disruption, and another 10 minutes for the full data transmission. Captain Walsh, can you get our engines ready for emergency launch? If we're lucky, we might survive long enough to make them work for the kill. Through the window, Kate could see Imperial security forces moving through the diplomatic quarter. They were searching every building and arresting anyone who looked suspicious. Agent Commander Zelrak would be coming for them soon. Transmission ready, Jake announced. All the data about Imperial fleet movements, weapon systems, tactical doctrine, and their plans for attacking Earth. Everything Dr. Vashan died to give us. His hand hovered over the activation. Control. Kate thought about Dr. Vashan and all the other species that had been destroyed by the Empire, about her sister's children and every human family that had no idea death was coming for them, about the 45,000 colonists who had died alone in space with no one to remember them. Do it, she said. Send it all. Let Earth know what's coming and give them every piece of information we have about how to fight back. The Empire thinks humans are just another primitive species to be eliminated. They're about to learn they made a very big mistake. Jake activated the transmission as security forces began hammering on their door. The data stream raced through space toward Earth, carrying the truth about Imperial genocide and humanity's only hope of survival. In 60 hours, the greatest fleet in galactic history would arrive at Earth expecting to find helpless victims. Instead, they would find 8 billion humans who knew exactly who was coming and why. And as Kate had learned from studying human history, there was nothing more dangerous than people fighting to protect their families and their home. Kate stood in front of the Imperial Archive, a building that looked like it was carved from a single massive crystal. The morning light of Thexus Prime's twin suns made the walls glow with inner fire. She had spent 3 days in boring trade. Discussions before finally getting permission to visit this place. The archive contains the complete history of our galaxy, said Dr. Lyra Vashon as she led Kate through the entrance. The avian scholar had feathers that shifted color as she moved and large golden eyes that seemed to see everything. Over 1 million years of recorded events and the stories of 10,000 civilizations. Kate tried to look impressed while her mind focused on her real mission. It must be fascinating to study how different species have joined the Empire over the centuries. I would love to learn about the process of integration. Something flickered across Dr. Vashon's face. Fear maybe, or sadness. Yes, integration is always interesting, she said quietly. Though not all stories have happy endings. She led Kate deeper into the archive past floating screens, showing historical records. Dr. Vashon, I hope you don't mind me asking, but what happened to species that chose not to join the Empire? Were there many who preferred to remain independent? Kate kept her voice casual as if she was just making conversation. The avian scholar stopped walking and looked around carefully. When she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. Follow me. There are things you should see, but we must be careful. Imperial security monitors everything in public areas. They took several turns through narrow corridors until they reached a small room filled with old data storage devices. Dr. Vashon activated a privacy field that hummed softly around them. What I am about to show you could get us both executed, but I think humans deserve to know the truth. She pulled up a holographic display showing star charts with red markers scattered across them. These represent civilizations that showed rapid technological advancement. The Empire called them potential threats to galactic stability. They were all eliminated under something called the Galactic Stability Protocol. Kate felt her blood turn to ice. Eliminated? You mean destroyed? She stared at the red markers, knowing that somewhere in that data was the fate of the missing human colony. Ships. The Empire has ruled for 1,000 years by making sure no other species ever become strong. Enough to challenge them, Dr. Vashon explained. Any civilization that might threaten imperial dominance within 2 centuries is marked for preemptive action. Most are destroyed completely. Some are allowed to survive in limited numbers as servants. Dr. Vashon touched the display and new files appeared. Kate saw records labeled with human ship names that made her heart stop. New Horizon. Pioneer's Dream. Freedom's Hope. Your colony ships were destroyed 6 months ago by Imperial Task Force Razor. The official report blamed space pirates. 45,000 people, Kate whispered. Families with children looking for new homes. They murdered 45,000 innocent people. Her hands shook as she read the casualty reports. The Empire had not just destroyed the ships, but had hunted down escape pods to make sure no one survived to tell the story. I am sorry, Dr. Vashon said softly. My own species went through something similar 300 years ago. The Empire destroyed our homeworld and 6 colony systems. They allowed a few million of us to live as scholars and administrators, but our independent civilization was ended forever. Kate forced herself to stay calm even though she wanted to scream. Why are you showing me this? You could be executed for treason. She needed to understand why this alien was risking everything to help her. Because I have watched 17 species die over the past 3 centuries, Dr. Vashon replied. Each time I told myself there was nothing I could do. But humans are different. You reached the stars faster than any species in recorded history. If anyone can find a way to fight back, it might be you. Kate looked at more files and found what she was really afraid of seeing. They are planning to attack Earth, she said as she read the operational plans. Task Force domination. 800 battle cruisers and planet-killer dreadnoughts. They plan to sterilize the entire solar system. The attack begins in 72 hours, Dr. Vashon confirmed. The Empire wants to eliminate humanity before you can develop more advanced weapons or warn other young species about what happens to civilizations that grow too quickly. Kate began copying files to her personal datapad as fast as she could. Fleet positions, weapon specifications, tactical doctrines, supply line information. Earth needed every piece of intelligence she could gather. Is there any way to stop them? Any weakness in their defenses? The Empire has grown comfortable after centuries of easy victories over primitive species, Dr. Vashon said thoughtfully. Their tactics are predictable, and their technology has not changed much in the past 200 years. They assume overwhelming force will always be enough. Alarms suddenly began blaring throughout the archive. Red lights flashed and security announcements echoed through the corridors. Imperial security sweep in progress. All personnel remain at current positions for identity verification. They know, Dr. Vashin said calmly. Agent Commander Zelrak has been watching you since yesterday. We have perhaps 5 minutes before they reach this room. She pulled out several data chips and pressed them into Kate's hands. Take these. They contain everything you need to know about Imperial weaknesses. Come with me, Kate urged. Earth will protect you. You don't have to stay here and die. But the avian scholar was already shaking her head and moving toward the room's other exit. I am too old to start over and my people need me here, Dr. Vashin replied. But you must escape and warn your species. Show them what a young civilization can do when fighting for survival. Make the Empire pay for every species they have destroyed. Heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor outside. Kate squeezed Dr. Vashin's feathered hand once, then ran for the emergency exit. Behind her, she heard the door explode inward and security forces pour into the room. Weapon fire lit up the darkness. As Kate reached the street outside, she heard Dr. Vashin's final words echoing through her communication device. Remember us all. Remember every species they silenced, and show them that some civilizations refuse to go quietly into the dark. Then there was only silence and the knowledge that Earth had maybe 60 hours before the killing began. The ship moved through space like a silver needle threading through stars. Ambassador Kate Morrison stood at the bridge window watching the massive world of Thexus Prime grow larger ahead of them. Purple clouds swirled around crystal towers that reached up into the sky like frozen lightning. She had never seen anything so beautiful or so alien. Captain Ben Walsh walked up behind her. His face showed the same wonder she felt. Hard to believe we made it this far from Earth, he said quietly. 20 years ago we were still arguing about moon bases. Now look at us. Kate nodded but kept her thoughts to herself. She was not here just to make friends with aliens. The real reason sat locked in her private safe. 3 colony ships had vanished near Empire space. The New Horizon, Pioneer's Dream, and Freedom's Hope. All gone without a trace. Over 40,000 people, including families and children, who just wanted new homes among the stars. Ma'am, we have an incoming transmission, called Lieutenant Jake Rodriguez from the communication station. He was young but sharp. Kate had picked him herself for this mission. It's General Vex Corlane of the Imperial Defense Force. The main screen flickered to life. A creature with 4 arms and scales like green metal appeared. His eyes were yellow and cold. Human vessel, you will follow my escort ships to landing platform 7. Do not deviate from the assigned course. Any attempt to scan our defensive systems will be considered an act of war. Kate stepped forward. General Corlane, I am Ambassador Morrison representing the United Nations of Earth. We appreciate your escort and look forward to productive discussions with the Imperial Council. The alien general looked at her like she was a bug that had crawled onto his dinner plate. Humans are new to space travel. You will follow protocol exactly or face consequences. The Empire has maintained order in this galaxy for 1,000 years. We do not tolerate disruption from primitive species. Kate kept her face calm even though she wanted to punch something. Instead, she smiled. Of course, General. We are honored by your invitation to discuss trade and diplomatic relations. The screen went dark. Captain Walsh shook his head. Friendly bunch, he muttered. Kate watched 6 massive warships take positions around their vessel. Each one was 3 times bigger than their ship and bristling with weapons she had never seen before. Jake, start recording everything, she said quietly. Ship designs, weapon configurations, shield frequencies, everything. He nodded and began working at his station. His fingers moved quickly over the controls as he gathered intelligence data. As they descended through the purple atmosphere, Kate saw cities that floated in the air, connected by bridges of pure light. Vehicles moved without wheels or engines she could understand. The technology was far beyond anything Earth had developed. But something felt wrong about it all. Everything looked old, like it had been built long ago and never changed. Their ship touched down on a platform made of what looked like black glass. Through the window, Kate could see hundreds of alien species walking around the spaceport. Some had wings, others had tentacles, and many she could not even describe. But they all moved with the careful steps of people who knew their place in the order of things. General Corlane was waiting for them at the bottom of the landing ramp. Up close, he was even more intimidating. His forearms ended in claws, and his scaled skin had scars from old battles. Ambassador Morrison, you will come with me to the Crystal Palace. Your crew will remain with the ship. Lieutenant Rodriguez will accompany me as my aide, Kate said firmly. It is standard diplomatic protocol. The general stared at her for a long moment, then nodded once. His yellow eyes showed he did not like being told what to do by a human. They rode in a vehicle that moved without touching the ground. Jake sat quietly beside her, but Kate could see him taking in every detail. The streets were clean and organized, but there was no energy in them. No sense of progress or change. Just order maintained by fear. The Crystal Palace rose above them like a mountain made of diamond. Inside, the halls were filled with representatives from across the galaxy. Kate recognized some species from Earth's first contact files, but many were completely new. They all watched the humans pass with curious eyes. Chancellor Thyros waited in a vast chamber with walls that seemed to be made of captured starlight. He was tall and thin, with skin like polished marble and eyes that held the wisdom of centuries. Around him sat the Imperial Council, 12 beings representing the most powerful species in the Empire. "Welcome, humans," Thyros said in a voice like distant thunder. "We are curious about your species. You have achieved interstellar travel remarkably quickly for such a young civilization, perhaps too quickly." Kate felt a chill at those words, but kept her expression neutral. "Thank you for receiving us, Chancellor. Earth hopes to establish trade relationships and cultural exchange with the Empire. We believe both our peoples can benefit from cooperation." "Indeed," Thyros replied, "though we must be careful. Rapid technological advancement can lead to instability. The Empire has learned to manage such things over the centuries. Perhaps humans require guidance to prevent dangerous developments." The other council members nodded in agreement. Kate realized this was not going to be the friendly diplomatic meeting Earth had hoped for. These aliens saw humans as a problem to be managed, not equals to work with. She thought about the missing colony ships and wondered if they had received similar warnings before they disappeared. "We are always interested in learning from more experienced civilizations," Kate said carefully. "Perhaps we could begin with limited trade agreements and see how things develop." She needed to buy time to investigate what had really happened to those ships. Thyros smiled, but his eyes remained cold. "Wisdom. We shall prepare quarters for you in the diplomatic sector. Tomorrow we will discuss what forms of cooperation might be appropriate for a species at humanity's current level of development." As they were escorted from the chamber, Kate caught Jake's eye. He gave her the slightest nod. He had been recording everything. Now they needed to find out what the Empire was really planning for humanity before it was too late to warn Earth.